Hello everyone, my name is Abby from the Museum of Antiquities, and today we're going to be learning how to play the Egyptian board game Senet. Thousands of years before board games like Monopoly, people played board games like this one, Senet. There is evidence of people playing this game as early as 3100 BC, and the latest intact boards found by archaeologists have dated to 600 BC. That makes this game 5,000 years old. Boards, such as this one, could have been made of wood, ivory, or ceramic. The game initially appears to have been played just for fun, with no real cultural significance. But over time, it became associated with the pharaoh and the gods. It is possible that the game of Senet and the path the game pieces take was representative of the Ba, or the soul, passing through the underworld after death. By around 1500 BCE, 3,000 years ago, Senet boards began to be buried in tombs with pharaohs and other Egyptian nobility to be used in the afterlife. Senet is an ancient Egyptian two-player race game. The boards are a simple rectangle made out of 3 rows and 10 squares. Players start the game at the top left-hand corner and wind their way across the board and end at the bottom right-hand corner. Instead of using dice, ancient Egyptians would toss a handful of sticks that were painted light on one side and dark on the other side. The players would then count the number of sticks, light or dark, that were facing up, and they would move that many spaces across the board. So how do we know how to play the game Senet if it was played thousands of years ago? Well, lucky for us, ancient Egyptians wrote things down in a language called hieroglyphics. Some boards had the instructions written all around their borders, so that later, when archaeologists found the boards and their pieces, they could read and understand how to play. Now, before we learn how to play, let's talk about what we need. You should each have your board game in front of you with your instruction sheet and a bag with your die and 14 glass pieces. Start by opening your bag and taking out the pieces. Separate your colors. You should have 7 of one color and 7 of the other color. Now to start the game, each player will roll the dice, and whoever rolls the highest number will go first. On your turn, the player will roll the dice and move any one of their glass pieces the number indicated. When you're moving your pieces, make sure you're moving them in a zigzag pattern from numbers 1 to 30. If the player rolls a die and moves their piece to a square already occupied by their opponent's piece must move back to where the other player started from. For a more difficult version, players can play where if they settle on a piece occupied by their opponent must go all the way back to the beginning. In order to win the game, players are trying to move their pieces all the way from the start and across the board to the finish and off of the board. The first player to have moved all of their pieces off of the board wins. On your turn, you can either move one game piece or you can add a new game piece to the board. There is no limit to how many pieces you can have on the board at one time, so you'll need to strategize. Is it better to have one piece and make it all the way to the end, or is it better to have many pieces on the board at one time? Squares 26 to 29 each have a special rule. No matter what a player rolls, they must stop on square 26 and wait until their next turn to move past. If a player were to land on square 27, it acts as almost a snakes and ladders rule, and they must go back to square 15. If a player were to land on square 28, you must roll a 3 to leave. It can be tricky to do, so take time and maybe add some extra pieces to the board. This square 29 is similar to 28, and you must roll a 2 in order to leave the square. It can seem like a lot of rules at first, but I promise that Senet is a really fun and easy game to play once you get the hang of it. I hope you have fun learning and playing it at home.